Recently, I visited the World Press Photo Exhibition in Montreal, a showcase of the year's best photojournalism, which I absolutely adored. And throughout the pictures of war, revolutions, and genocide, there was this series by Kiana Hayeri titled No Woman's Land, which I really want to share with you. When the Taliban returned to power in Afghanistan in 2021, women's rights were rolled back to the point where in August 2024, a law was passed to ban women's voices from being heard in public. With the French researcher on women's rights Mélissa Cornet, Hayeri spent 10 weeks throughout 7 provinces to speak to over 100 women from different ages, backgrounds, and experiences. As Phoebe West writes in her article Capturing the Quiet Resilience of Afghan Women, in a country facing one of the most severe women's rights crises in the world, No Woman's Land captures their struggles, but also shines a light on the subtle yet powerful ways they are resisting, from secret classrooms to moments of quiet togetherness at home. There is a Kickstarter page associated with the project, so you can support the work of Hayeri if you're interested. The reason why I'm bringing up this project is because of this photograph. It's a strange, almost surrealist picture. In a dark room stand mannequins wearing wedding dresses. This is an innocuous image if you compare it to pictures of actual Afghan women struggling and resisting. But what grabs the viewer's attention in this simple picture of a Kabul store is the mannequins' heads. The Taliban removed or erased women's faces on any public display such as posters or advertisements. At first, the Taliban required all mannequin heads to be removed, but eventually allowed the figures to remain intact if their faces were covered. These wrapped heads immediately made me jump to other depictions of wrapped heads in art history. Very famously, Magritte in Lovers 2, made in 1928, depicted 2 people kissing through veils. I made a video on how Magritte painted his trauma, and this painting could have been associated with the death of his mother, who killed herself when he was only 13. Check out that video if you're interested, but one could also see the veiled faces as a sort of blindness, the kind through which we may idealize a lover when first falling in love. The veil symbolizing blindness came back only 2 years later in John Heartfield's work. I also made a video on his anti-fascist art, which I greatly recommend because Heartfield's art was very radical. He had to escape the Gestapo and was even listed the 5th most wanted man in Nazi Germany. There are a lot of things that got me into working with photos, Heartfield said. The main thing is that I saw both what was being said and not being said with photos in the newspapers. In this photo montage known as the Cabbage Head, the caption reads, "Whoever reads bourgeois newspapers becomes blind and deaf. Away with these stultifying bandages." This was featured as a full print page in the Arbeiter Illustrierte Zeitung, or the AIZ, a communist and anti-fascist newspaper criticizing fascism, capitalism, and its defenders. One of these defenders, communists believed, was the SPD, the Social Democratic Party, which they felt were completely incompetent and toothless in the face of Germany's rising fascism, to the point where communists called the SPD Sozialfaschisten, or social fascists, for enabling Hitler. Luckily for us, fascism today doesn't have an incompetent and toothless opposition party facing it. Right? We learned from history. Right? The reason I'm bringing up the SPD is because the cabbage leaves, or the newspapers wrapping the head of our model, are pages from the newspapers Onward, the SPD's publication, and Tempo, another newspaper which Heartfield called bourgeois. To the bottom right of the image, Heartfield changed the lyrics of a nationalist song titled "I Am Prussian, Do You Recognize My Colors?" and writes, "I am a cabbage head, recognize my leaves. Sorrows make me lose my mind. But I'll stay quiet and hope for a savior. I want to be a cabbage head, black, red, and gold. Don't want to see or hear. Stay clear of politics. And even if they strip me naked, the red press won't come in my house." This makes it very clear. Heartfield is using the veil of newspapers as a way to symbolize ignorance. This ignorance isn't only an evil in itself. You're not just a cabbage head for being ignorant. You're also a cabbage head for being passive, inactive, for staying clear of politics, staying quiet, and hoping for a savior. This is what the wrapped head really symbolizes, and at least to Heartfield and myself, it's what helps enable fascism. Finally, I want to briefly look at Christo and Jean-Claude, who I know for their massive rapping stunts. They rapped the Arc de Triomphe in Paris and the Reichstag in Berlin. The first rapping ever made by these artists was of a nude classical sculpture at the Villa Borghese in Rome. The sculpture takes on the loving form of mystery, explained Christo. In this case, the veil is about mystery. Of course, there's a difference between wrapping a human head as Magritte and Heartfield did, and a sculpture. When a person is wrapped, the veil says something about them, but when an object is wrapped, the veil says something about us. A wrapped sculpture or a monument says something about one of the greatest faculty of humankind, curiosity. So, what does the veil on these mannequins reveal? Neither curiosity, as we saw with Christo and Jean-Claude, nor ignorance and inaction, as we saw with Heartfield, nor blind love, as we saw with Magritte. Perhaps it would be better to look at the fig leaf campaign, a practice which started in Europe in the 1560s to cover up the genitals of statues with fig leaves to prevent figures from inciting lust. These mannequins, under capitalism, are our modern-day statues, just as advertisements are our modern-day frescoes and murals, and it's no surprise that these would be targeted in order to erase women from public space. These bags don't only represent concealment, they're not just hiding the visible from society. They also, because they're made of plastic, symbolize suffocation. This suffocation inflicted on inanimate objects shows just how the oppression of women in Afghanistan isn't only done through the control of what they wear, what they can say, where they can go, or what they can do. This oppression has been so systemized that it's been implemented on images of women, their symbols and representations in Afghan society. When going through the photos of No Woman's Land while being aware of the situation in Afghanistan for women, one can only have incredible admiration for the work of Hayeri, not only for doing the work as a woman, but also for creating relationships with her courageous subjects, which allow us to peer into the intimacy of Afghan women living through the most misogynistic regime on earth. I strongly recommend you go look at the World Press Photo website to see Hayeri's entire project and read Phoebe West's article, which will be linked in the description. All right, it's getting really hot in here. Thank you so much for watching. Hold on. I don't know if you can hear me. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe if you have already. If you haven't already, I mean. I'd like to thank, as always, Rowan Brandel, X-Towns, and all my other patrons for supporting the channel. If you're not a patron yet and you want to support the channel, I've been going back to making a video every week. So if you're interested in following what I do, subscribe. Even, I never said that, but hit the notification bell so that way you know when I make videos. This is my last video in this studio in Gaspésie. I'm going to Montreal. So the next video will probably be filmed. If it's filmed, I might be moving, so it might not be filmed in Montreal, but it'll be in my new place, officially, in Montreal. If it's not the next video, it'll be the one after. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I guess it was different. I hope that, hold on. It's really warm. I hope that when I talk inside my masks, or like my pillow cover, or like my newspapers, it looks like I'm talking, because I'm not talking actually. I'm voiceovering me just going like this the whole time. I hope it wasn't too distracting. I hope it worked. I hope the effect worked. In any case, thank you so much. And yeah, check out my letterbox, check out my Instagram, comment, because I read all of them, and I read all the comments, and see you in the next video. say goodbye to the studio. Goodbye, studio. Goodbye, Gaspésie. Goodbye, end of an era, and the beginning of a new one. All right, bye-bye.